As we continue to look around the BC Hockey League season previews for 2016-17, up next is the Coquitlam Express. We're joined right now by the head coach and general manager of the Express. It is Barry Wolf. Barry, thanks so much for taking the time to do this.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So when you look at your roster heading into this season, knowing what you had in terms of players moving on, graduating, guys you've moved in transactions, what sort of holes were you looking to fill in this year's team when it came to recruiting?
Well, I mean, obviously we lost, our big line there, and they created a lot of offense for us. So we're hoping that, some of the guys from last year can step in and add that void. But, we were looking for some offense and obviously some grit and, kids that play with determination.
So what all goes into putting together the Coquitlam Express? What's the recruiting game for your team?
Well, I mean, I think we're like anybody else. We want to try and get the best kids we can and be competitive every year, and that's our goal. And I think everybody's goal right now is to win a championship and move kids on to the next level. So we want kids that are committed and good character, hardworking, and are focused on their goals.
What's the sales pitch that you give to recruits to come to Coquitlam?
You get to ride on the train. You're playing in the BC Hockey League, at the end of the day, and we're going to create the atmosphere for you to be successful and develop you to get to the next level, whatever that may be for yourself.
So your team gets into the last playoff spot in the Mainland Division last year, playoff series against the Chilliwack Chiefs. What did you learn from last season, and did you discover that there's anything that you needed to change in terms of style or philosophy or anything like that?
I don't think so. I mean, they were obviously a very good team, and we felt we had the opportunity to win those 2 overtime games that we lost, and all of a sudden then it's a best of 3, and playoff hockey, who knows what happens. But again, they were obviously had a little more personnel, more skill, and deserved to win the series. But it's for us and the returning guys, they realized how close they were. I mean, that team went all the way to the finals of the league, and we were right there at times. So I think just if guys can bring that, what they learned, and the loss and the bitterness of the loss, hopefully we can carry that right from the puck drop.
You've been involved in junior hockey for a long time. Do you find yourself still learning things from season to season?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the great thing about our game. You never stop learning, and everybody has new ideas all the time, and you see them at our level, at the pro level, and that's what probably keeps us going. It's always something different.
So for yourself with the club, you get into that 4th spot, and when you look at the record overall, 22, 29, 6 overtime losses, what can fans expect with this year's edition of the Coquitlam Express compared to last year?
I think we had, this year we have a little more depth, and, after that big line we had, we didn't, we struggled at times to get secondary scoring. I think that hopefully we have that this year, and just a little more balanced lineup. So, hopefully, a lot of some of those games are lost at times. Whether your top guys are worn out, obviously we played those guys a ton, but hopefully we can have a more balanced attack.
You talk about that top line and that drop-off in scoring when you talk about Colton Kerfoot and Jackson Cressy. How do you fill that gap of that scoring? I mean, you look at those 2 alone, and that's 58 goals in your lineup.
Yeah, well, I mean, those guys stepped in and filled that void. I mean, the year before we had Sapinski and Mackin, who had, I think, 48 and 50. So, we just, continue to develop our guys, and they start at the bottom of the lineup, but hopefully, their second, third year, they're in the top 6 and can create that offense, and that's what, we've done here in the last couple of years, and hopefully it can continue this year.
If you could pinpoint one thing right now through training camp and through the exhibition season leading up to the regular season, what would you say is the strength of this year's edition of the Coquitlam Express?
Right now, our work ethic is extremely high, and that's what we want. And hopefully that'll carry us over into some of those 1-goal losses or overtime losses. Hopefully that could be the difference in winning those games.
At this point of the season, what would you say is the biggest challenge facing your club?
I'm not sure exactly right now. I mean, we haven't scored a lot so far, which could be a concern, but we think we do have some offensive guys here. So it's just a matter of time for them to get some chemistry, I think, and start putting the puck in the net.
You look like you recognized a need in the offseason. You go out and acquire Malik Kayla from Merritt. You get Dom Macelis as well in a trade. Two veteran guys in the BCHL. Did you recognize that you needed some veteran presence there on your blue line?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we really, we kind of lacked that a little bit last year. We had a couple guys like Green that were good leaders and, obviously a ton of experience. So we just felt we needed to fill that void. And both those guys come, you talk about the experience, they've been around, and both are leaders. So that's something that, was a factor in getting both of them as well.
So far, what you've seen from those players, have they been as delivered?
So far, so good. So we'll see Friday. Ask me that after Friday's game.
Do you have any returning players that maybe flew a little bit under the radar last season and now are looking at that elevated role that they might be in this season and could be poised to raise some eyebrows?
Yeah, like we had a couple players that played most of the year hurt, both with hip injuries, and Cam Birch and Luca Leone, and both are getting close, even, still they're just getting healthy. So I really hope that, both those guys can stay healthy and have big years just for themselves and for the team. Both great kids and hardworking leaders, in the community and on our team. And we expect a lot more from those guys, if they can be healthy. And then Alex Ambrosio as well. He really, was a third, fourth line guy last year, but really, learned a lot and developed. And we're hoping that he can contribute more offensively.
How important is it for your team to have a handful, a solid group of players returning from the previous season, guys who know the expectations, guys who are familiar with the system, with the community, the way the organization is run? How big of a deal is that?
I think it's important, just the culture we're trying to build here. And so guys can just pass that on to the newcomers, and it makes our job a little easier on the staff side. If they can do that, and so far so good. I mean, we've been real happy with our guys, and we've been in the community a ton since, in the off season, and our guys have done an unbelievable job. When we first got here, we had to make calls and struggled to get out to community events, and now the phone rings off the hook, wanting us there. So that's a credit to, the way they've reacted to that, and how good they've been in the community.
Earlier this summer, you were named the head coach of Canada West for the World Junior A Challenge. Does that play any role in your planning for the season, knowing that you're going to be away for the duration of that tournament?
Well, I mean, obviously, those games I'm going to miss in December. It hurts, and I feel bad, for the team. But, our group here is, they went through it last year, and Rob Boyd, ran the show and did a great job. So hopefully he can continue that this year, and we can get some wins out of that.
With what you've seen through the club, you talked about work ethic being a strength of your team. What you've seen through the exhibition season and through training camp at this point, is there already a personality with this Coquitlam Express team, or is it a bit early to say?
I think, it's probably a little early, but our identity, we do want to be a hardworking team and hard to play against. So that's two things we've talked about since day one. And, we talk about it every day. So, that's two things we're striving. And then, as things go along here, we'll gradually add to that, our identity plan.
With some of the first-year players that you had last year that are now the veteran guys on your team, did they take a lot away from the playoff experience and recognizing how difficult it actually is, not only to get into the playoffs, but once you get there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those first-year guys on any team, I mean, a lot of people take for granted how good our league is, and once they go through exhibition, it's okay, it's so ho-hum, but once our regular season starts, I mean, it's like, holy mackerel, this game is fast and there's a pretty good level. And I think, we all know that as the season goes on, it gets quicker and faster, and things get a little tighter, and then playoffs, it raises another level. And some of those kids, you're right, I mean, their eyes are wide open, and it's like, that experience is so big in bringing into the start of the year, and hopefully, for us getting back into the playoffs and hopefully making some noise this year, and those guys would learn, what it takes to win. And you always say that you need to lose before you can win, but you don't like to lose, but sometimes it's something that's just part of the development. So hopefully those guys can take all that, what they learned, and move forward.
One last thing before I let you run. Now, what does it mean to be a Coquitlam Express player?
We have a lot of pride in in our logo and what we've done here so far. And obviously every year we do we send guys to school, and that's a big part of our goal here, and to be a solid citizen in the community. And we're a big part of the community here, and it's important that everybody knows that the Express is a community's team, and that's why we try and do our best to get out in the community and support whatever we can, whether it's minor hockey, Special Olympics, or get into the elementary schools. And it's a big commitment, and we expect a lot out of our guys, and so far they've delivered.
All right, looking ahead to the 2016-17 BCHL season, the head coach and general manager of the Coquitlam Express, Barry Wolf. Barry, thanks so much for doing this, and best of luck this season.
Great, Brian. Thank you very much.